What exactly is Ethereum? I hear about it all the time. I've heard that it is the second largest cryptocurrency, but I can't wrap my head around it. Is it as much of a change as Bitcoin? Can it really change the way the world is right now? If you want to learn more about Ethereum, but are tired of explanations that sound like complete technical nonsense, keep watching. Hello everyone, welcome to Success Wisdom. In this video, we're going to talk about what is Ethereum Blockchain 2022. If you're new to this channel, do like and subscribe to the channel. There will be answers to these and other questions. Since Bitcoin is what Ethereum was built on, it's important to go over it quickly before we move on to Ethereum. You probably already know that Bitcoin is a type of decentralized currency, but if you're still not sure what that means or how it works, you might want to watch the original video, What is Bitcoin again? Before Bitcoin, the only way to use money digitally was to go through a third party, like a bank or PayPal. Even back then, the government still made and kept the money that was used. All of that changed when Bitcoin came along. Bitcoin is a decentralized form of money that lets people trade directly with each other without the need for a middleman. Every Bitcoin transaction is checked and accepted by the whole network. Since there is no single point of failure, the system is hard to shut down, change, or control. Now that we know money can be spread out, what other parts of society that are centralized could benefit from being spread out? How do you feel about voting? For votes to be valid, they must be counted and checked by a central authority. At the moment, real estate transfer records are kept by centralized property registration authorities. Social networks like Facebook keep track of all the information we give them through servers that are all in one place. What if the blockchain technology that makes Bitcoin work could also be used to decentralize other things? The interesting thing about blockchain technology is that it came about by accident when Bitcoin was made. By putting together already existing technologies like encryption, proof of work, and decentralized network design, blockchain technology was made to create a system that can make decisions without a central authority. Before Bitcoin, there was no such thing as blockchain technology. But when Bitcoin became a real thing, people started to figure out how and why it works. This thing became known as blockchain technology. Blockchain is a platform on which you can build programs and apps. It is like the internet is to email. A currency like Bitcoin is one of the options. People were very happy about this, and they began to look into other ways to decentralize. But for a system to be truly decentralized, it needs to be run by a very large network of computers. At the time, Bitcoin was the only network and it only had a few users. Because Bitcoin is written in a language that is Turing imperfect, it can only understand a small number of commands, such as who sent how much money, to whom and when. To build a more complicated system, you need of a new programming language which requires a different computer network. Think for a moment about what it would be like if you wanted to make your own Bitcoin-like decentralized software at home. You'd need to know how Bitcoin's decentralization works, make software that mimics it, put together a large network of computers to run this software, and so on. And all that difficult work. Now let's tackle our main topic. What is Ethereum Blockchain 2022? Ethereum was first proposed in late 2013 by Vitalik Buterin, who at the time was a co-founder of Bitcoin magazine. It was then made real in 2014. Ethereum is a platform for dApps, which are DIY decentralized applications. If you want to make decentralized software that no one, not even you, controls, all you have to do is learn the Ethereum programming language called Solidity and start writing. Since it is run by thousands of different computers, the Ethereum network is completely decentralized. When a program is uploaded to the Ethereum network, these machines, which are sometimes called nodes, make sure it runs the way it was meant to. Ethereum is a platform that is used all over the world to run dApps. It's not a way to buy or sell things. It is a platform. Ether is the name of the money that is used to reward the network, but more on that later. The goal of Ethereum is to really make the Ethernet less centralized. Wait, Ethernet in one place? I thought that the internet was already decentralized and that anyone could start a website. In theory, that could be true. But in practice, companies like Amazon, Google, Facebook, Netflix, and others control most of the internet as we know it. Almost everything you do online goes through a third party or middleman of some kind. But when Bitcoin showed that digital decentralization could work, it opened up a whole new set of possibilities. Now that a central third party is no longer needed, we can finally start to imagine and build an internet that connects consumers directly. Users can rent out space on their hard drives directly to other users, which makes dropbacks unnecessary. Drivers can advertise their services directly to riders, skipping Uber as a middleman. People can buy cryptocurrencies directly from each other, instead of going through an exchange that could be hacked or where your money could be stolen. Ethereum makes it possible for people to talk to each other directly, without the need for a central authority. It is a group of computers that work together to make a powerful, widely spread supercomputer. If you like this video, don't forget to like and subscribe to this channel. Now that you understand what Ethereum does, let's talk about how it does it. Solidity is a programming language for Ethereum that is used to make smart contracts. This is the code that makes dApps work. I'll clarify. In reality, a contract is just a list of if and then clauses, or a set of conditions and actions. For example, my landlord lets me live in my apartment as long as I pay him $1,500 on the first of every month. Smart contracts work the same way on Ethereum as they do anywhere else. Once the conditions for the app or dApp are written by the developers using Ethereum, the app or dApp runs on the Ethereum network. They are called smart contracts because they take care of everything to do with contracts, such as management, performance, and payment. If I have a smart contract, for example, the landlord doesn't have to do anything to get the rent. The contract knows that the money has been sent if it says so. If I really did send the money, I'll be able to get it into my apartment. If I don't pay my rent on time, I'll be locked out. Smart contracts have their pros and cons though. Using the same example as before, a smart contract would stop the non-paying tenant from moving back in, so the landlord wouldn't have to kick them out. On the other hand, a truly smart contract would also take into account things like mitigating circumstances, the reason why the contract was made, and the ability to make exceptions when they are needed. In other words, it would do a great job of judging. But in the Ethereum world, a smart contract is not smart at all. In reality, there is no room to move at all. It follows the law to the letter and can take into account anything else or the spirit of the law, which is often the case with contracts in the real world. Once a smart contract is published on the Ethereum network, it can't be changed, not even by the person who made it. It can't be different. Changing this contract would be hard because the whole Ethereum network would have to agree that it needs to be changed. This is a very big problem because unlike Bitcoin, Ethereum was made to let people make contracts that are very complicated, and complicated contracts are notoriously hard to protect. The more complicated a contract is, the harder it is to enforce it. This is because there is more room for interpretation or because more terms are needed to cover possible situations. In the case of smart contracts, security means handling every possible way the contract could be carried out with the utmost care to make sure it is only used as intended. When Ethereum was first made, the phrase code is law was used. In other words, an Ethereum contract is the final word and no one has the power to change it. All of that changed quickly though when the DAO episode happened. The Centralized Autonomous Organization, which is sometimes called DAO or DAO, lets people put money in an account and get rewards based on how the DAO invests the money. They would use the centralized decision-making to make their own choices. When the price of Ether was around $20, the DAO used it to raise $150 million. Even though everything sounded great, the code wasn't properly protected, so someone found a way to steal money from the DAO. Now, you could say that the person who stole from the DAO was a hacker. But some people say that this person was just taking advantage of the security holes he found in the DAO smart contract. This is not all that different from a smart lawyer who finds a loophole in the law to help his client. After deciding that the code was no longer legal, the Ethereum community changed the Ethereum rules to take back all the money that had been put into the DAO. In other words, the investors and people who wrote contracts made a bad choice, and the people who work on Ethereum decided to save them. The small number of people who didn't agree with this decision stayed on the Ethereum blockchain until its protocol was changed, which led to the creation of Ethereum Classic, which is the original Ethereum. Since we've already talked about a lot, I'd like to end by talking about Ethereum as a currency. Ethereum is a big group of computers that work together like a supercomputer to run the code that makes DOPs possible. It costs money to buy the machines, power them up, store them, and cool them as needed. Ether was made so that this could happen. When people talk about how much Ethereum costs, they are really talking about how much Ether costs. Ether is a cryptocurrency that people get when they run the Ethereum protocol on their computers. This is a lot like how Bitcoin miners are paid for keeping the Bitcoin network running. The person who makes a smart contract must pay for it to be used on the Ethereum platform. The service is paid for with Ether. This is done to encourage people to write code that is efficient and well optimized, and to stop people from using Ethereum's network's computing power for things that don't matter. The first time Ether was given out was in 2014, during the first initial coin offering for Ethereum. At the time, it cost about 40 cents for 1 Ether. 1 Ether is now worth hundreds of dollars. This is because the ICO craze that started in 2017 has led to a lot more people using the Ethereum network. Now that we are finished and tackle what is Ethereum Blockchain 2022, I hope you have learned something from this video. Thank you for watching. If you like this video, do give us a like, subscribe to the channel, and comment down below. Thank you and goodbye.